"Hey, old-timer, entertain us here." The voice rang out across the mats, dripping with sarcasm. A young black belt stood tall, smirking as his friends laughed behind him. He pointed toward the grey-haired man, leaning quietly against the wall. The veteran didn't move. His posture was calm, shoulders squared, eyes steady. He didn't rise to the bait. That only made the laughter louder. Before we move further into this story, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear. Let's dive in. The other fighters whispered among themselves, mocking. What's he even doing here? He looks like somebody's grandpa. Phones were pulled out. They were ready to record what they thought would be a humiliation. But the old man didn't flinch. He simply stared at the young fighter with calm patience, as if he'd seen this exact scene 100 times before. The coach shifted nervously, but before he could intervene, the veteran finally spoke. His voice was deep and steady. "Son, fighting isn't about laughs. It's about discipline." The black belt chuckled, bowing with exaggerated flair. "Then show us, old man. Let's see what kind of discipline you've got." The crowd whooped, forming a circle. The energy in the room shifted into excitement, mocking anticipation. To them, this was a spectacle. To the veteran, it was nothing more than another lesson waiting to be taught. With no hesitation, the old man stepped onto the mat. He didn't bounce on his feet or strike a pose. He stood there, relaxed, like the storm before calm. The black belt, fueled by ego, lunged forward with a heavy strike. And then, in the blink of an eye, everything changed. The veteran's movement was barely visible. A sidestep, a twist of the wrist, a redirection of energy. In less than a second, the young fighter was flat on his back, staring at the ceiling, gasping in shock. Silence filled the room. No one laughed, no one clapped. The old man simply stood where he had been, as if he hadn't moved at all. The black belt scrambled up, cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "Lucky move," he snapped. His pride burned too brightly to admit defeat. He lunged again, faster, harder, unleashing a barrage of punches. But once again, the veteran didn't respond with panic or power. His movements were minimal, precise, controlled. Within seconds, the black belt was trapped, his arm twisted gently into a lock, his face pressed into the mat. He struggled but couldn't break free. The veteran leaned close, his voice low enough for only him to hear. "Strength fades, ego fades, but skill, son. Skill remains." Then he released him without harm. The room was frozen. The whispers turned into stunned silence. Even the coach's jaw dropped. What they had witnessed wasn't luck. It was mastery. The veteran extended a hand, helping the black belt to his feet. Humiliated, the young man muttered, "How did you do that?" The veteran's eyes softened. Decades of training, decades of discipline, and more importantly, decades of survival. Someone in the crowd finally noticed the faded patch on his jacket sleeve, the unmistakable insignia of Delta Force. Gasps rippled through the gym. This wasn't some washed-up hobbyist. This was a commander, a man who had lived through battles most of them couldn't imagine. He wasn't just a fighter, he was a warrior, forged by war itself. The black belt's arrogance drained from his face. "Wait, you served?" The old man nodded once. 30 years. I trained men who never made it home. I fought not for trophies, but for the man standing next to me. Fighting was never a game to me." The students who had laughed earlier now stood with their heads lowered, shame spreading across their faces. The room that once mocked him now understood the weight of the man standing before them. Later that evening, in the locker room, the young black belt approached him. His voice was quieter now, stripped of arrogance. "Sir, I'm sorry for what I said. I thought you were just some old guy trying to relive his youth." The veteran chuckled softly, shaking his head. "Son, age doesn't take away skill. It takes away ego. Maybe that's the lesson you needed." The young man hesitated, then asked, "Will you train me?" The veteran gave a small smile. "I already have." From that day forward, everything changed in the gym. The old-timer who had been mocked became the most respected figure on the mats. Students lined up to shake his hand, to listen to his lessons. He never bragged, he never boasted, he simply taught. And the black belt who once laughed the loudest, he became his most devoted student. Day after day, he returned not to prove himself, but to learn. Slowly, his arrogance melted away, replaced with discipline, humility, and true respect. Months later, during a major tournament, the young fighter stepped onto the mat again. This time, his opponent was bigger, stronger, faster. The old version of himself would have rushed in with ego. But now he bowed deeply, eyes calm. The fight began, and though he stumbled at first, he remembered the words drilled into him: discipline over ego. He moved with patience, waited for the right moment, and with a precise counter, he won. The crowd erupted in cheers, but instead of celebrating, the young man turned immediately to the sidelines. Standing there, arms crossed, was the old veteran. Their eyes met. The fighter bowed, tears in his eyes. "Thank you, sir." The veteran simply nodded. "You learned." That gym never forgot the day they mocked an old veteran and instead discovered a living legend. Respect replaced ridicule, and laughter turned into awe. The moral is simple: never underestimate someone because of their age or appearance. True strength is not in muscles, belts, or titles. It's in wisdom, discipline, and the years of sacrifice most will never see. And that's why respect followed her everywhere she went. If this story touched you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let us know how you feel in the comments.